Hello mentors, my name is Pratik. So the purpose of recording this video is to explain a Leetcode problem. Uh, so let me explain the problem now. First of all, we will move on to the question which I'm going to explain in this video. For that, I need to share my screen. Let me just share it now. Okay, so I think that my screen is visible now. So first of all, we will go through the question, the explanation of the question, and then we will move on to the solution. So it is Leetcode problem number 442. Find all duplicates in the array. So first of all, let us read the problem statement. What actually the question is actually saying: given an integer array nums of length n, where all the integers of nums are in the range 1 to n. So we have been provided with an array whose name is nums, and the length of the array is n, where uh, which contains the integers from a range of 1 to n, and each integer appears once or twice. Return an array of all the integers that appears twice. So what the question is basically saying is that we have been provided with the array. It contains some elements from a range from 0 1 to n, and n is the length of the array. So means if the length of the array is 5, then it contains the elements 1 2 3 4 5. uh, and it contains some elements once and some elements twice. Let us consider this case. It contains some elements may occur twice and some element may occur only once, but we do not have any occurrence more than twice. It is only once or twice. You must write an algorithm that runs in big of n time and use only constant extra space. So what it is saying is that it is saying that you have to write an algorithm which takes big of n time complexity. Let me go through the examples which we have been provided with. We have been provided with an array whose name is nums, and the data present inside this array is 4 3 2 7 2 7 8 2 3 1. So as you can see here that the 3 here has been repeated 2 times, and 2 here is also have been repeated 2 times. 1 2 3, or we can say 1 2 2 3 3 4, and then after 4 we have 8 and then 7. This is what actually the question is saying. uh, the characters which have been repeated are 2 and 2 and 3 and 3. 2 have been occurred 2 times and 3 have been occurred 2 times. So output you can see it is 2 and 3. In the output we can see those characters which have been repeated twice. So the question is basically saying if there are some numbers which are repeating twice in the array, then you have to return a new array which contain those elements which have been repeated in the previous array. Again, let us take this example. 1 1 2, 1 have been repeated 2 times, so 1 is the element which have been repeated twice. That is why the output is 1. As you can see here that the only element which this array contains is 1. So it does not have any kind of repetition. That is why we can see that the output is just this thing you can see here, which is uh, this it's a empty array. It is, since we do not have any repetition inside the inside input. So I think this was all about the explanation of the code. What we have to do, if an element is repeating in the array, we have to return a new array containing all those elements which have been repeated in the previous array. So let us move on to the solution. What we have did here is that we have made the solution in Java. So first of all, I have declared an array here whose length is equals to nums dot length minus 1. I have created an array whose names is apps, and the length of that array is nums dot length minus 1. I will explain why we have made plus 1 nums plus 1, why we have considered the length to be nums plus 1. Again, I am starting a loop here. For int I of nums means I from nums. It is a for each loop or advanced for loop. We are taking value from nums. For, let us consider this case. Okay, let us consider this case. This is smaller. For the first iteration, I would be 1 and apps of I plus plus. When we have declared this array here, you can see here that I have declared this array. the each and every element of this array would become 0, since it is a property in Java. If you assign the length of the array, since like you can see here that we have assigned the length of the array here. So if you assign the length of the array, then the array in Java automatically fills 0 elements to all those indices, for to all the indices up to the length of the array. So when we have declared this array, it is a array containing 0 element from index 0 to the length of this array plus 1, to the length of this array plus 1. So again, let me explain this. For int I of nums, means for first iteration I would be 1, abs of 1 plus 1. 1 plus plus means the element present at first index will increased by 1, since the element present at first index is 0, as I explained, and after plus plus it will become 1. Again, next iteration would happen, and again, for the next iteration I would be again 1. For again, abs of 1 will become plus plus, or it would be increased by 1. Again, the element present at abs of 1 is 1, and when we increase it by 1, then it will become 2. For the third iteration, the I would be 2. So the element present at second index of apps is 0. When we plus plus it, it will become 1. So the element present inside this array are, the element present at the 0th index of apps is 0. The element present at 1th index of apps is 2. And the element present at second index, or we can say, yeah, the second index of x is 1. And the element present at first index of apps is 2. Now what we have done here is that we have created a new array list here, since the return type of the question is list, and the data type stored inside the list is integer. So in order to return the list, as the question is saying, we have declared here a array list, and for int I is equal to 0, I would be less than apps dot length I plus plus. What we are doing here is that if the element of apps, if the element of apps means the array which we have created here, if the element present inside the array which we have created here is equals to 2, is equals to 2 means it has repeated twice in this array. When the only case the element present inside this array will become 2, it will happen only when the particular element in this array has been repeated twice. So that is why we are saying is that if if the element present at apps of I is equal to 2, as in this case I already told you that the element present after the completion of this first loop, the elements of this apps array would be, the element at 0th index would be 0, the element at 1th index would be 2, and the element at second index would be 1, and so on, and all other elements would be 0. So, or they would be something like that. They would not be 0, they would be increase, like since we have length is equal to 3, then the third iteration would not happen, since we have already iterated through the through all this array. Let me explain it once again. The length of the array is 3. 3 plus 1. Let me explain this. For the first iteration, the first index of this apps array would be 1. For second iteration, the first index will be updated to 2. For third iteration, the second index would be updated to 1. Then the elements present inside this array would be 0, 2, 1, 0. 0, 2, 1, 0. These are 4 elements. The length of the arrays was 3. And since we have make plus 1 here, that is why the element present inside this apps would be 4. Again, what I am doing here is that 4 int I is equal to 0, I would be less than I plus plus. What I am doing here is that if the element present inside this array which we have created here, if the element inside this array is equals to 2, sorry, if it equals to 2, it means that it have been repeated twice inside this array. If it is equals to 2, it means that the element have been repeated twice inside this array. You have to understand this. If the element present inside this array is equals to 2, it means that that particular element have been repeated twice inside this array. As we can see here that 1 have been repeated twice. That is why the first index of this array have been increased 2 times. For the first iteration it have been increased to 1, and for the second iteration it was increased to 2. And since we know when it was increased to 2, then its value become 2, and that is why here also this case will get satisfied. And this case will get satisfied as 2 would equals to 2, and we will add that particular element list dot add I. We will not add that element, we will add its index. So we will add it index, that will become 0 1. The index of that element would be 0 1. As I told you that the element at 0th index would be 1. Oh, at 0th index would be 0. The element at 1th index would be 2, and the element at 2th index would be 1. As I told you now, yeah, in the similar case, list dot add I, list dot add, it means list dot add 1. Finally we are returning this list. So I think this was all about the explanation of the code. This is a pretty not, I would not say that it is difficult, but it's like the only way to explain it in a better manner is to use uh, a proper I can say a proper Excel row or something like that. I have to explain it properly inside something to have a screen, but I do not have such resources now, then I'm not able to explain it properly. uh, so I think yes, this was all about the explanation of the code. And talking about the time complexity of this question, it would be big of n, since the iteration here completely depends upon the length of the array. Iteration here completely depends upon the length of the array. And the space complexity would also be big of n, since you can see here that we have declared a new variable here whose length or whose space completely depends upon the length of the input array nums. That is why the space complexity would be big of n, and the time complexity would also be big of n, since the number of iterations completely depends upon the length of the input, which is nums. So let me just now submit the program now. So you can see that it is working fine now. I think this was all about the explanation of the code, and with this I should end this video. And uh, I don't think that anything has left that I have not explained yet. So thank you so much, sir, ma'am. Thank you.